Okay, part 3 of my journey from nursing school to the ICU to anesthesia school. We are on to anesthesia school. Part 1 here, I talked about just getting into nursing school, what nursing school was like, and then just starting to look for a job in the ICU. Part 2 here, I talked about just working in the ICU, how I got there, my experience overall, some tips to help you succeed and do well and learn to prepare for anesthesia school, and then just things to think about as you're trying to apply to anesthesia school. And then this part, I just want to talk about anesthesia school specifically. Now, here in this video, guys, I gave you guys some tips clinically, and then I also talk in part 2 of that, tips didactically and just in the classroom to do well in anesthesia school. Today, I just want to talk about my journey and overall and how I liked it, what stages were hard, and then maybe just it will help you, encourage you in your journey along the way. And then also just talk about where I'm at now, because guys, life is so much better after anesthesia school, but you have to get through it first. So let's get started. Okay, anesthesia school. It is a big deal to get into anesthesia school. It's hard. In the previous video, I was talking about just being very intimidated to apply because of my GPA was average, my GRE score was average, everything about me was average on paper. And my classmates, they were applying to get into the same school as I was. And I'm like, they have way more experience than I do. No way. Fun fact, they did not get interviews. And my mind was blown. I said, why would they not get interviews and I would? Why did 2 people that had way better GRE scores than me, way better GPA scores than me, how could they get in and I didn't? Or how could they not get in and I did? But then it came down to, you know, there could be a multitude of reasons why. I've heard some people theorize that anesthesia schools don't love people that have a ton of experience because they're harder to teach or whatever. But I'm still convinced it was my application letter. But all that to say, I remember where I was sitting when I got that call. And I remember seeing them call me and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was at dinner with my husband and I got the phone. It said Barry, and actually had the recruiter's name, and I answer it. And it was just like literally one of the happiest moments of my life, but also one of the most daunting moments, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really doing this. I'm really going to put my whole life on pause for 3 years to do this. And I'm not gonna lie, I had people in my life that thought it was a waste of time, that I should just start a family, that X, Y, or Z. Everyone's always gonna have an opinion on what you should do. And it was like, I'm going out on this limb and I'm doing this, and my husband supports me, which was like all I needed. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it well. So the cool thing is I knew what school I wanted to apply to early. I got everything done, and I was actually one of the first applicants, January 1st, got it in, one of the first interviewers, and I think I was in the first batch of callbacks because it was pretty early on in the year. So then my program, and this was a big reason why I chose my program, which look into your programs, the programs that you're looking at. I chose a program that offered a Head Start program. So I actually got 3 of my classes done before I even went to school, you know, and I will say those of my classmates that really struggled at first, they were the classes that I didn't have to do. So that was a huge help to me. And that made that first semester not so terribly horrible. It was still hard, but it wasn't so terrible. And it helped me focus on my other stuff. So if there are any programs around you that offer like a Head Start program or anything like that, 1000% do it. You will not be sorry. Do it, do it, do it. So that's kind of what happened with me. I was still able to enjoy life. I still worked full time, did a couple of these classes. Me and my husband went on a big trip right before I started school. And then I did it. I started. My program was an integrated program. So I had like, the first month was all in class, kind of get to know. And then the second month we did a lot of like lab simulation stuff for clinicals. And then they kind of threw us in. We did have a couple of days of shadowing, but for the most part, And like, they threw us in full time. There was no like 2 days a week that I see with some schools now or whatever. It was like, I don't even know what this surgery is, and it was intimidating up front. But let me tell you, by my last year, we were extremely independent CRNAs. You know, we are SRNAs. We were the SRNAs, you know, the clinical CRNAs would ask us, what school are you from? And we would say, Barry University. And said, oh, okay, you're good. You do your thing. I'll let you know if I need to do anything different. Which is a huge confident booster when you've already been beat down so many times in clinicals. So I'm a big fan of integrated. So many programs are different, and I know I had some friends that did it front loaded, and they were amazing CRNAs. They were just a little behind clinically, but then they caught up and they did great. So either program you can be an amazing CRNA. That's just my experience and what I would suggest personally. Okay, so clinicals were freaking hard, guys. I did this video here giving you guys clinical tips. I highly suggest you watch this because clinicals are brutal, like brutal. Like, I had people physically put their hands on me. I had people tell me, oh, I just can't even. And I don't want this to be like just a melodramatic video about me talking about my horrible experiences, because it was hard, but so many of us experience. But I think the important part is to have just a deep mental grit and a strong just perseverance, and realize and say, I'm gonna go, I'm going to survive, and I'm gonna do well with whatever they throw at me. My personal life was nil, especially that first year, guys. I remember our program would always say, if you can survive the first 3 semesters, you'll survive the program. So it was a very high attrition rate, extremely hard didactically, and they had super high standards. But I'm super thankful, especially just, you know, there's a couple of my professors that really took the time to be good examples. And don't get me wrong, there's issues with every program, and some of my classmates would like complain all the time about things, and I get it. Like, it was hard, and sometimes they did things that were unfair or sketchy, but it was a good program. And you just have to work hard, kind of put all of the negative talk around you out and just hustle for what you want. Okay. I would also suggest, when you're in anesthesia school, have everything scheduled and planned, because you can be so overwhelming. And then schedule in personal time. And I know that's really hard when you have 1,000 things to do, but really, guys, you're going to burn out at some point. I had a burnout moment, and I'm like the strongest mentally person I know. And I say that, like, I grew up with 10 siblings. I legit was given swirlies by my brothers. I would get beat up by my brothers. Like, I felt like I kind of lived through, I don't know, like, no, not really. I loved my childhood, but it was like, I grew up with brothers. So, I'm just my husband always said I'm cold-hearted. Like, I'm very mentally tough, and it broke me. Like, I remember the end of the 3rd semester, I was broken mentally, and it was really hard. So make sure you take time for yourself consistently, and then also have a really good support system, guys. You know, I've had so many moms reach out to me, or, you know, moms or young girls that want to be moms, and they're like, hey, you know, how would you suggest getting pregnant? When should I get pregnant? Should I get pregnant? I have a little kid. Can I do this with a little kid or a little one? And let me just tell you, first of all, if you already had kids going into the program, you can absolutely do it. I have classmates that did it. But let me tell you, I had more classmates that failed out with little kids than not, and especially moms. And let me tell you how I think you can succeed. You have to have an extremely good support system. You know, you have to have family that are willing to pick up your slack, because you are not going to be there to tuck them in at night. You're not going to be there to cook. You're not going to be there to clean. You're not going to be there to play with them. You're going to miss a lot of whatever, plays, sports, whatever, and you have to. You know, the ones that chose to do those things over studying, they failed. And that's just a hard truth, you know. So really decide if you're willing to do that, and if you are, you can succeed. But you have to make schooling a priority. You have to make studying a priority. And then for those of you that don't know, I actually got pregnant in my last year of anesthesia school. Remember, I timed it out. I'm like, okay, I want to have a kiddo. I'll never forget I'm so dumb. I'm a freaking nurse, and I timed my pregnancy wrong. Oh gosh, so stupid. And first of all, I was like, I don't even know if I can get pregnant. So many women struggle with infertility, and that could absolutely be me. But I was going to plan as if it could happen and just see what happens. And sure enough, we got pregnant the first time we tried without protection, and I planned it a month too soon. Literally, totally, duh. I was thinking, okay, 9 months from this date is when I'll have a kid. Well, geez, you plan your 40 weeks from time of conception, which is your last period, and I'm just an idiot and didn't think through that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, my due date was a week after graduation. I had planned on giving myself like a month and a half buffer time. No, my due date was like graduation. No, my due date was the week before graduation. Now, it was like after my clinicals were over, but it was the week before actual graduation. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to graduation with a newborn. Well, fast forward to my last semester. First of all, it was hard, but it was okay. You know, thankfully I had a healthy pregnancy. I was sick almost every day. I had to sleep a lot, but I was in my last semester or last 2 semesters. And, you know, so I would say I was getting good clinically. So my stress levels weren't as high as my first year clinically. But it just got a lot physically. I got exhausted every single night. And then COVID hit. So here's the thing, guys. COVID saved me because I still had a month to go, and I was 7.5 months pregnant. And I was like, I'm not going to survive this. I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired. I'm huge. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And thankfully I had all my hours when COVID hit, and they wouldn't let students in, and they said, you're done. Like, you're good. You have way more hours because we were front loaded. I got to sit for boards. And then let me just talk about this. So finished school, COVID came. Guys, I had my baby. I had to study for boards with a newborn. Talk about stressful. Like, I had this sweet little baby that I just wanted to cuddle and love on, and I would feed him, and then I'd hand him to my husband, and then I would study for 2 hours. He would bring him back to me, and I would feed him, and then I'd hand him back. And we did that for 3 weeks straight, because I gave myself a 3-week period. Well, first of all, I had a rough birth, and I was on bed rest for 4 weeks, so I took a couple weeks off. And then I went into this 3-week intense studying for boards, and it was horrible. It was miserable, and it makes me sad thinking about it, that I did that. Like, I could have, if I would have timed it better, I would have been able to enjoy my time with my baby. So I would say, yes, you can do it, but my suggestion would be to any girls that are wanting to get pregnant in their in the last year of anesthesia school, would be to wait till your last semester. And then if you want to get pregnant in your last semester, that's okay, because you're gonna have plenty time after to go through that last hard trimester. So that would just be my suggestion. It was very hard for me to be, 8 months pregnant in clinicals and then have to take boards with a newborn. It was extremely stressful, and I very much look forward to not having to do that with my next child. So my advice to you, I know so many of you have asked me about having kids in anesthesia school. Don't even entertain the thought at first, and then your last semester or 2, you can start thinking about it. And I think as long as you get your due date well past graduation, I would say you should be able to do it no problem. Now, there's always a risk that you'll have some sort of pregnancy complications, so you have to take that into consideration. But overall, it's a great time to start thinking about a family. Yeah, so that's kind of how my anesthesia journey went. First year, the hardest, stressful. I had an incredibly great support system. Clinicals were hard. Survival of the fittest. You study all day long. I literally had what I called my traveling rash, stress rashes. Like, they'd be on my arms, my lips, my eyes, my back, my armpits, and it would change every day. I had a stomach ulcer at one point from the stress. I remember this clinical site I went to. They were just so mean and boo. They're just like that everywhere, dude. So anyways, you're not alone. you're not alone for sure. You guys can do this. Then at the end, you know, I felt super confident because of the clinical experience I had. I graduated, finally passed my boards, and then I took my first job. So I just real quick want to touch on my job that I took. So I did this video here on just tips on looking for a new job. I highly suggest you guys look at it and think through where you're gonna work. Decide what's most important to you. For me, quality of life is at the top of my list. I wanted a great life with my family. I wanted to be a mom, but I wanted a job to where I could still work full time, grow and learn, but still have my family and my chill life and live on a lake and be super laid back. So for me, that was not working at a level 1 trauma center. That was not being a travel Srna. It was finding a community hospital where I worked every day. I got a wide variety of things to where I keep up all my skills. I really wanted to do regional anesthesia, and I still have so much to learn, and my coworkers are so amazing and they teach me a ton, but I get to do all the regional anesthesia. I practice independently. You know, there are no anesthesiologists at the hospital I work at. It's Srna only. I am definitely the only new Srna. All the Srnas I work with are very experienced and they're awesome and I get to learn a ton. But my journey has led me to where I'm at now. And guys, let me tell you, like, I'm just so thankful. And I know at the end of the day, where I am is 1,000% due to just the grace of God and Him giving me my strength to persevere, giving me just the knowledge I needed to succeed. But I really believe He blessed me because of my hard work, because of my trusting in Him and not ever giving up. And I would just encourage you guys, when you're trying to decide what you want to do, what's your end goal? Create your end goal and then create a plan on how to get there, because you can get there. You just have to have a good plan, and you have to never give up, or there's gonna be hard times. So that's just my advice to you guys moving forward is, if this is what you want, go for it, but just realize it's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. And there's a reason why we are literally the highest advanced nurse practitioners. It is the most rigorous training. It is hard, it is stressful. We have people's lives in our hands when they go to sleep. So it's a big responsibility. So definitely not for everyone, but if you're someone that you think you're interested in this, or you're on your way there, or you're in it, good for you. Hustle after it. You got this. I'm super excited just to be a part of your journey, and I'm super humbled by all of you that have reached out to me and just asked me for my advice. I'm super new in this too, and I'm learning along with you, and I just really appreciate the community we're building, and I love it. So anyways, okay, I'm done talking. Thank you for listening to my journey. If you guys have any questions, comment below. Make sure you like this video. Helps me out a ton with this YouTube algorithm. And I will continue to make anesthesia related content for you guys. So thanks for being here. Cheers, guys.